Hey, it's Pastor David, and I'm here with our Thursday at 3 update. And today, church staff. Have an update for you about one of our church staff members, Erin Corbelli, Director of HR. Erin has submitted her resignation letter and has ended her time at our church as of the end of July. She has received the opportunity to build upon her strengths and abilities and pursue a new direction in her career, the next step. And so we can only celebrate that for her and give thanks for that. Erin's been with us for 6 years, and she's given of herself and has blessed us as a church family. And so we certainly celebrate that with her. In particular, she has been a tremendous help, just of many areas, a couple things. The pension shortfall that she discovered when she came on board, where we were behind from way back 20 some years in accounting for pension correctly. Helping with equitable compensation between the preschools and church staff, and helping us work through getting our equitable compensation up to place. Compliance with the IRS. And we went out at the time, you may not remember this, but at that time, our church had gotten into a place where all facilities, all HR, all finances, all front office came under the work of one person. And that really is an impossible task in today's world. Things are a little more complex now than they were when I started in ministry 30 years ago. Of course, we didn't even have cell phones. You had to go back to the church to call somebody. We didn't have laptops or any of that. You had to go to the office to do ministry and then drive to somewhere. And so things are different and more complex. And that just was a recipe for disaster. And so at the time we brought in some consultants, we did an audit, an HR audit, 9 pages of things that we needed to address to get up to compliance and to be healthy that way. And we brought Erin in, staff parish at the time, brought in Erin to address some of these things. And she has really helped us beyond the pension, beyond the compensation, become more compliant with what we need to do, from I-9s to let's say 1099s and payroll. And then, of course, insurance. And insurance, of course, is a real challenge. You know this yourself. It costs more and delivers less. Every year in the church world, you're reviewing it on an annual basis, and you're changing companies every 2 or 3 years. You need to have good insurance benefits to retain the right employees. You don't have benefits, it's hard to hire and find people to work there. And so even with this diligent work, it goes up $10,000, $20,000, $30,000 a year. There's a lot of work to ask a volunteer to put together, rather someone who knows what they're doing, like Erin, has been tremendously helpful. So thank you to Erin for her hard work. We do need an HR person. We need it for a number of different areas, like I've just mentioned. One is IRS compliance. And the need for the different forms that we have to turn in to make sure that we're together. We need it for hiring. We have roughly 130 employees at the church. Most of that, a good chunk of that, is at the 2 preschools, but they're part of the church. And so there is a constant hiring going on. And of course, the hiring process is critical for retaining the right employees and building church culture among the staff. And with Erin's help and with an HR person's help, we have had a season of longevity among our staff. I went out and looked, the source of all knowledge and wisdom. The average tenure of the American worker in our society today is 4.1 years. That is, the average person in America stays at a job 4 years. Right now, in our church's staff, not our preschool, but our church's staff, the average tenure is 5.5 years. That is on the church's ministry. Some have been here for more than a decade. Some have recently come on, but the average is 5.5 years, beating the average out in the private sector. The average tenure of clergy in our district, the East Central region of Florida, is just under 6 years. And of course, we're pushing out close to starting on 10, and Pastor Rachel's getting up close to 5. And so we're really blessed with a season of longevity, and that hiring process is critical. I remember how hard it was during COVID doing the interviews to hire, and how difficult it was through the season of discussion and disaffiliation with our denomination, sitting on calls. And the very first question people wanted to know is where we stood on inclusion, and that would end the call there, or we progress right based on that one question. And so having an HR person help with the constant need for hiring, for compliance, for equitable compensation, for training. We have a child protection policy, comes from the conference. It has certain rules and requirements to protect the young, and we're adding to it to protect the elderly. We are required by this policy that the pastors sign off on, and the leadership of the church signs off on, that whenever we're around children or youth, we'll have at least 2 adults of mixed genders to be able to be safe. That means there's a lot more need for volunteers. When I did youth ministry 35 years ago, I'd pile a bunch of kids in a van and we'd go. Can't do that anymore. You have to have 2 adults of mixed gender. That means a lot more background checks, a lot more training to make sure we're compliant. And so that's a real need for an HR person. Payroll, I definitely notice when my paycheck doesn't come. That gets my attention. And so we want to make sure that all of that happens. Employee accountability and so forth. So just a number of areas that have led us to continue to search for a new HR director. Pat Albert is the chair of our Staff Parent Relations Committee. They're at work to reviewing the job description. They are talking with an outside consultant about it to see kind of where we need to go next and how we are doing with that list of 9 pages of things that we started to address back in 2018. And just in the meantime, I ask for your prayers. I ask that you pray for the team that will interview. I ask that you pray for the right candidate. These days, especially COVID on, we have found the tendency to hire unicorns. That is, you're looking for somebody that has a deep ability and skill set in that particular area, but also has a deep faith that they practice and understanding of the need for church. That narrows the field considerably and fits into the culture of the church and is willing to work for less than in the private sector. So all that together doesn't mean we find somebody the first day. It takes time. Our hiring process in the church isn't 1 week. It's not 2 weeks. It's usually a month or so. And we're started that process. And I ask that you pray for that right person. And then you pray for the staff that's picking up the pieces, particularly Lynn in the front office and Jen, the bookkeeper, and Deb, the CEO over all the area, that they would be able to carry that as we find the right fit for our next director of HR. I know that you will, and I am grateful for that. And I look forward to seeing you in church on Sunday. God bless.